And we're live. Okay.
We're back.
Part two. Dogs have been relieved, and that's a good thing. So we were looking at Alex Caceres. His cards go way back. Uh, you could get a 2010 Topps autograph for $23, and then a base card for 99 cents. That goes back to 2014. But I think he was in like the first or second set of Topps. So
Uh-huh.
exciting fighter and a lot of options.
And ranked now.
Yeah,
And he's made his way into that into that ranking for featherweight. And so it's interesting. It's going to be curious to see. That's someone that I find interesting. He's 34 years old, so like I said, he's obviously sort of on the back end there. But we all love veteran guys who kind of pull it together at the back end of their career and make for fun fights.
yeah.
And he's fighting Daniel Pineda on June 3rd. And I expect him to win that fight. And I'm real curious to see. I'd like to pick up some Alex Caceres cards, and I think there's some cool ones. I want to go shopping. I don't know if he has a museum collection from back in Topps. I don't know if he was one of those that was maybe in some early Topps sets. And then with his losses, in the early, I mean, he lost a lot of fights. I mean, listen, 2014, 2015, he lost 3 fights in a row. So you might find him in some of those early top sets, and then it might taper off a little bit. So I'm curious. I'm going to go on a Caceres hunt and see what I can find here in the next
Sure.
couple of days.
Yeah. Okay. Who else did you want to? We got a
So
couple.
Ian Gary has a fight coming up against. I like blueberries. Yes, I do. I like.
Thank you. Love it.
Ian Gary and D-Rod. And I think those were two interesting rookies from last year because they both at some point, well, Gary for obvious reasons, and it was obviously more sustainable. But D-Rod had some buzz there, and was just one of the guys that ended up on the wrong end of a fight, or it may have been 2 since 21 came out. I'd have to go back and look. But Gary for sure is an interesting figure because I think he can be I think he can be what I was talking about that Alex Caceres brings to the table, which is you want to see some wins, but you want to see some personality and a little bit of pizzazz. And I really do think, I know Daniel DMAC is big on Gary, and he's one of the guys I know chased him a lot last year. But I think he's really talented, and I think that D-Rod's in for a bad night. I think Gary wins that fight. I think he moves laterally exceptionally well. He's a young guy. He's a good-looking kid. He's kind of got the the Conor McGregor 2.0 thing going, and it's going to be interesting. I think that if you do want Gary, now or wait a couple of weeks after he wins again. But I think Gary is a real good long-term hold.
I totally agree, and I think that he was one of the hot rookies when the set came out, when Select came out, because he didn't have a Prism rookie, right?
Right.
He had a Donruss. Who cares? But when Select came out, he had some really nice cards, and I think that he was hot when those cards came out, and then recency bias took its toll, and I think he's got a lot of development to do yet, but he's fundamentally strong, charismatic, right? And he's not going to be thrown into the wolves, right? He's picking smart fights, or they're giving him smart fights where he can win. And I'm trying to remember who.
Yeah, and I think this is that fight too, because right now as it sits, D-Rod lost his last fight against Magny, and he is sitting at 15, ranked at 15. Ian Gary is not ranked. Ian Gary's 25. He's 4-0 in the UFC. He's 11-0 overall, and he's got all those characteristics to be that personality. And again, not to beat a dead horse, but when we talk about sustaining value, you look at Sean O'Malley, you look at Conor McGregor, obviously. Now with Conor comes the pedigree, but personality has a lot to do with it. And so Ian Gary is a good one.
He's got a lot of interesting cards. A lot of value out there.
Yeah, I don't think there was a set last year that he wasn't in. A lot of rookies last year were in Prism, not Select, in Select, not Prism.
He was not in Prism. He wasn't in Prism.
He was not in Prism. Okay. Right. Well, I eat my words.
That's okay. But he's got a lot of cool cards. And
so then that also means this year's Gary is his first year Prism.
Yes.
And we know that carries some weight too.
Absolutely.
With it being the flagship set of, from Panini.
Let's see. So he's attainable, right? Ton of cards. His gold flash there, we just saw at 176. Let's see. Let's take a look at Gary 2023 and see what his first year Prisms are doing. 550, 550, 4 cheap.
Yeah, very cheap. And those are 299s, 149s, and 199s, all under $10.
I was working on a Gary PC, and for whatever reason, I got out. I like to have one banger card of rookies that I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that! His black 101 went for $2,000.
Well, there you go. There's a teal to 49 for $22. That's a really nice card.
Yeah. By the way, Blanchfield 101 got pulled. Hasbulla base card 101 got pulled.
Saw the Hasbulla and I saw the Blanchfield.
Yeah. And there have not been a lot of Hasbulla autos pulled yet, but if you can pull a silver Hasbulla auto, you're looking at $1,000 card.
Yeah.
So. All right. So that's Gary.
That's Gary. And then Olberg's the next one. Pull up Olberg and see if there's been any sales on 130 in the Prism 23 rookies. He's one that I find real interesting. And he has a fight coming up, and I will tell you it is soon, I believe.
So Red Wave, actually no. Here's a fighter that has value, right? His red to 199 is 99 cents. His purple to 149 is 280. $10. Silver's for 99 cents.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Wave 99 cents, which Blue Wave looks like it's two per hobby. So there could be some value in Blue Wave.
Okay.
Teal 49 is $32. Blue 17. Orange 28. Blue Shimmer 179. Blue Shimmer's to 10 first off the line.
So if you don't remember, go back and watch. He's interesting. He fights. He's a big dude. I mean, light heavyweight division. He fights out of City Kickboxing, out of New Zealand, and he fights on this coming weekend. He fights in North Carolina on that card against Ihor Potera, who is Ukrainian and has rattled off some wins. So that will be an interesting fight. He's 1-1 in the UFC. Fought in January. And so Olberg is one that I'm real interested in too, as far as guys that have a rookie card out that have a fight coming up and aren't getting all the heat.
Should we look at Almeida?
Yeah. Let's look at Jailton Almeida and see, because he fights Rosenstruck this weekend.
Yep.
So you're going to have him and Olberg on that card. So let's look at that one. I think he's going to have a little bit more. I think he's going to have some pool.
$42 for a base rookie. $1.25 for Rewave. $40, $41 for his blue shimmer. $10 for his orange. $3 for his purple. $3 for his blue. $80 for his red auto. Yeah, so $30 for his blue. $50 for his mojo. Been seeing a lot of mojos come out.
I have too.
I hit a mojo in a weight class break. I forget who it was. One of the women's fly. I can't remember. But anyway, yay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's money.
And we just saw Parker Porter fight this last weekend, and 2 fights into the UFC, Almeida submitted Porter in the first round. Yeah. After that, he finished. He followed up. I think his next 2 fights after that were first round finishes. A second round finish of Shamil, and we just saw Shamil fight not too long ago, and let's see, I think he pulled a win. So he's got some quality wins, and he's got some quality wins early. So that's going to be interesting to see, and obviously there's what you got. What's that blue one?
Rosenstrike is ranked 9th right now, and Almeida is ranked 12th.
Yes.
So they're not subjecting Derek Lewis to another gatekeeper fight as he slides down the rankings, thankfully.
Right.
I think they're going to let Derek off for a while.
Let's see. Almeida is 31. And still, certainly a lot more heat on him than Olberg or some of the other guys that I like in this year's set. But you can still see he's got some. What is that tops there?
That's not him. That's Tomas.
Oh, that's Tomas Almeida. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, what I'm calling the worst product in the history of Topps UFC striking signatures. My LCS has it for $110, and they've been sitting there. A case of them has been sitting there. I bought one of them, and it was a trash card that I sold for like $5 or $10. I don't even remember who it was.
It's risky. It's risky at $100.
Yeah, it's risky at $20.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
So base auto, $70.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and a lot of activity this week. A lot of those cards moved.
Yeah.
So I think that he was probably on your graph, one of the ones that was averaging on the oranges, probably in the $30 to $40 range.
Yeah. Let's see here. No. 10.
Yeah, so that's 10. Affordable.
Yeah. Oh, that's Lucas. Never mind. 80, 95.
Oh wow. 99. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that seems more that seems more on what I would expect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you got a bunch of good ones coming up. That are outside the ones that are the most popular names.
All right. So let's see. Who else did we want to look at? Did we look at Zayan? We did. We talked about
it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. We talked about him. We talked about Caceres. We talked about Gary. We talked about Olberg.
Okay.
Amir Albazi, obviously.
Let me show off my charts, okay?
Okay.
All right. So I like to make charts. So I'm looking at a couple of fighters here, and I'd like to keep up with this data because 130 point only goes back 3 months on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger auction sites, it'll go back indefinitely. I'm not 100% sure, but let's start with the one we all love. Let's start with Hezbollah here. Let me set this up here. So I have two things here. I've got all of his data, and then I have, let's get rid of the things that cost over $1,000 so we can see trends. All right. So first of all, here's his data on everything. You can see there's some cards that went for close to $7,000, and everything else here is down at the bottom. But so are we shocked that we're starting to see the downward trend?
No.
Let me. Then I took away all the crazy value cards, and here's data on basically everything up to teal. So oranges, we had a little bit of an outlier here, but teal from about probably $900 down to about $400. Orange, we had a little bit of a spike here with an outlier, but orange right now is probably around the 250 mark, 250, 300 mark right now. And that's where I think it'll probably sit. And then everything else is below that. Hypers, he's got a ton of ruby waves, and I think they're at around $100 right now. I expect that card to drop. Silvers are at around, the silver numbers are distorted because every day there's an outlier that'll go for like $100, $150. But silvers are, I think, in like the $50 to $60 range right now.
Okay.
And then blues, let's see, what do we have? Where is our blue? Blues and reds are in the like $100 to $200 range, I think. So obviously, in the course of a week, the mania is settling in here, and it'd be interesting to see how far it drops before it levels off.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I've said before, I mean, listen, it's pop culture things can sustain value, but we know that you're going to see that initial just bloodbath of people going through stuff. Yeah. Some of the stuff that I saw was nuts, but I think overall, listen, if you can pick up jump in on a lucky enough to get in on a pack or a break or buy your own boxes and get a nice colored card, I think it's something that's going to be, I think it's something that will move always. Yeah. Or at least for a while, just not at the price that people are going out and paying initially.
And then my second one that I've got here is Mokaev. So this one, everything's below 500.
Interesting.
We've got a gold shimmer that went for about $800 or $900 here. But let me show you the everything below 250 chart that I did here.
Mm-hmm.
His Mojos went for about 300. Everything else, again, we're seeing a little bit of settling in effect other than his teal, which has gone up a little bit. So we're looking at the 150 mark down to, looks like about $50 to $75 for most cards. You saw his oranges are probably at about $80 right now, $60, $80 right now. And everything else pretty affordable.
Yeah. And, I think that looking at last year's cards and last year's rookies, and we talked about, now I think, I'm big on Mokaev. I think he's a special talent. I think that looking at this, it's nice to see it. Now, granted, it is a popular guy. It's a fighter, not a pop culture, collectible like Hasbro is. The prices are obviously leveled at. They're kind of flat across that time period for the most part. But again, that goes back to him. Also, he's in a division that really could get a lot of light shine on it here in the next 12 to 18 months. And but look at the $50 to $100 golds from last year. I still just think, even if you're a singles buyer, wait a little bit. And, I still don't have solid news yet on that injury and when he's coming back. And so the whole recency bias thing will hit. And even if it's a 20 to 30% drop, you know, that's a substantial number on a $100 to $150, $200 card. You know, why pay $200 today if you can pick up that same card for $150 or $140 3 months from now, 6 months from now? Because curious to see.
Sorry. Where do you think Mokaev's ceiling is? Where do you see him fitting in the division?
I think honestly that he is good enough in that division. Well, first of all, he has something that you have to have in that division, and I think that right now in that division, if you don't have a really, really, really legit high level grappling game, that you're in real trouble. And he has that. So he's at 12 right now. Albazi is a very, very legit ground game threat. And you have Pantoja in that mix as well. And those are my two favorite guys right now in the top 10. So it's interesting. I mean, I think the guy can definitely win the division. I mean, I think he could be a belt holder at some point. It's going to be interesting. But I just think regardless of that, he's going to have popularity. He's going to win more fights. There's a lot of guys that are winnable for him, a lot of fights that are winnable, rather. He's at 12. You've got Dvorak. You've got Matt Schnell in there. You've got Alex Perez in there. We'll see what, if Kakara Francis ends up losing to Albazi and drops to a 7 or an 8 or a 9. Maybe that's a potential type of fight to make for him. But I love the guy. But the point is, in my opinion, that if his stuff is level already, I'm not buying singles right there.
Sure.
Because we haven't seen the dip in him, and he'll dip because of the recency bias of the product, and the fact that we don't know when he's going to fight again.
Sure.
So I think that's a good one to follow. I think you picked a real good one to follow. I think adding Bo Nickel and Aaron Blanchfield would be good. And I think there's a couple of guys that we could probably collaborate on and say, hey, let's look and see and sort of track it like we did with the Silvers last year. Some of these rookies that we kind of pick and look at. And I like the 1099 versus the I like the 1099 versus just doing the Silvers. Because I think the shifts are going to be more dynamic. The dollar amount shifts will be more dynamic. So we can go ahead.
Silver can start out at a level and then they all sink, as we've seen. So
yeah.
All right.
Well, I think that the lack of it being a numbered card when the new products roll out, they just really lose their shimmer.
Jesse Hubbard asks, what are our thoughts on Peloton cards? I think that it's interesting that if the product had come out a month earlier, a lot of people would be holding bags right now, right? But
right.
He'll move into a new division. He'll light somebody up, and we'll see a spike. So, doesn't hurt to get some of his cards.
I listen. I think that what he did coming in was enough for him to have. He's gonna carry some value regardless.
Yeah,
but. There is, if you pay attention on social media, to either Adesanya or Alex, he is sort of making the claim or, claiming his position that he thinks they should run it back.
Sure. And if I was him, I would probably want to do that. And right after the fight, we're like, no, because that was probably scary for Izzy, and he's their superstar.
Yes. Well, and the question is, Dana already said, listen, if he moves up to light heavyweight, he's not going to get a title shot. But they're also not going to dump him at the back end of light heavy. So look at light heavy. You've got Walker and Anthony Smith going right now. They're at 5 and 7. You've got, I think if you put him in against an Ozdemir, I think Alex just, I think he whips him. You've got Paul Craig at 9. You've got Krylov, that would be a real interesting fight at 6. You've got Rakic. You've got Jan Blachowicz. So, I mean, there's winnable fights for him as far as his style and his skill set. But here's the thing. If he comes in and wins the belt, good, and then loses like he did, and then moves up to light heavyweight and loses against a number 5 or a number 6 or a number 7, then you've invested, and I guarantee you it fell off the table at that point.
He's looking at a top 10 matchup out of the gate. I'm 100% yeah, absolutely. I mean, the star power is already there.
For sure. And that's why I'm saying, all the people that I just named. I mean, listen, I would love to see. I mean, I think if you put him against Volkan Ozdemir, he whips his ass. I think if you put him against Johnny Walker, he whips his ass.
Yeah.
Krylov's an interesting fight to me, but I'm also a Krylov fan. What happens with Anthony Smith and Walker? If Anthony Smith wins that fight, he goes up. You've got Jan Blachowicz there. A Rakic fight would be interesting.
Blachowicz would beat him because he's got no wrestling game.
Well, that's what I was about to say. Magomed Ankalaev and is at 2 and Jan's at 3. But those are tougher fights because of the wrestling.
It would be Prochazka would be an awesome fight.
Prochazka would be a really, really fun fight. So listen, if you can pick up Alex cards and not overspend, I think it's a fun speculation. Yeah. And it makes his career, his career over the next 12 to 18 months even more interesting. But if you're going to go out and you're going to overspend early, you better hope he doesn't draw a wrestler in light heavyweight. And I don't think they would do that. I think Dana would be smart enough to say, "Hey, I can have this guy and pull in some pay-per-views. If we give him a winnable fight."
Sure. So I'm throwing the shameless self-promotion on there.
Oh, nice.
So this is close to the half hour. This is close to the hour when you factor in our little break. So, gang, we had to take a little break. But anything else before we?
I do want to ask if Sean Foster is on here and he's listening. I wanted to know who he PCs. Throw a couple names on the chat.
And your address in the DMs.
Striker matchup, I think. Who just commented? The Facebook user says I won a lot with a couple of 49.
That was Sean. That was Jesse Hubbard.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there you go. That's a perfect example.
I would say this. I believe in get one that you can move and get one that you can hold and feel good about, because the collector in me likes to have dope cards of exciting fighters and fighters that I believe in, right? Mm-hmm. And then the degenerate in me needs to sell cards. So I would, if they're gradable, send one in, and then cross your fingers and see what happens, and then decide, do you want to move a PSA 9 or do you want to hold a PSA 9, right? And then make your decision based on that.
I agree 100%. Listen, I had mentioned something earlier before we wrap this up. So I had mentioned about the tag grading submission that I've got coming in.
Sure.
And I tell you what, if I could turn my camera around and you see the mess. These are my organized cards here, but Brennan has a tendency to get in there, and he's not real good at keeping things alphabetized. Sean, what I'm going to do, so I'm also a big Marab and Chase collector. So instead of you mailing me a card, listen, we appreciate you jumping on here and commenting and being part of what we got going on. It's fun. Let me pull, I think I've got a pink Pulsar Chase Hooper. Let me send that in to Tag and get it graded for you. And then you can have it, man. And just add it to your collection. That way you don't have to mail me a card.
That is so generous, Be Still. We should do more.
Listen, I'm sitting here trying to, listen, I like giving stuff away because it's fun and it's a hobby, right? We've talked about it. They're hobby cards, and the hobby stuff doesn't always have to be about the money. Sometimes passing somebody along something that you've enjoyed, then they can enjoy it. And Sean, it'll be your first Tag graded card, and hopefully it'll grade really well. And it'll be a beautiful thing to add to your collection. So I'm excited to do it. I'll find one, and I'll reveal the card to you next Sunday before we send it off.
I'm experiment.
This is the card cam.
Sorry. Sorry.
Don't apologize, Nate. I'm trying to make the show better.
I was experimenting with the card cam, and I have to figure out how to not get audio feedback. Anyway, so we got a third camera that I'm working on. So I've got a McGregor Tag, since we're talking about Tag. It only scored a 919. You can't really see it on there. 919. 9 isn't bad, but in the world of 1,000 points, 919 feels bad. So one of the things we are promoting is send a card into Tag, and if you can beat it, if you can beat my score, I'll pay for the submission of the card that you send in. So once I figure out my card cam and the audio setup so it doesn't create feedback, I'll have some more cards on here. But this is my second Tag submission. Conor McGregor base card from Prism 21. Definitely easy to beat. Somebody try to beat it, and Be Still or I could do a submission for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, and Sean said that he said, I'll pay for it. I'd love to have that card. Absolutely not, man. Brennan, if he were allowed to stay up this late and was on here with Nate and I, he'd say the same thing. As a matter of fact, he is in the process of bundling lots of silvers and color cards, and he's going to make team packs make packs and team bags, and he's going to just take them up to jiu-jitsu and give them to the kids up there. So he's pretty excited about it. Since he's going to be down and out for a little while, he's going to still go to class and give away cards. So it's part of it, man. We enjoy it. So I'm excited. I'm curious to see. I think I've got a couple of pinks. We'll try to pick out a good one and try to get you a really high score. It'd be nice to see a nice Chase Hooper on their dig report.
For sure. Well, yeah. Be Still coming through with the charity and the appreciation. So guys, thanks for being part of the show, adding to the conversation. And Be Still, thanks for reminding me that we used to give cards to people. We should do that more now.
We should. Yeah, we should. Well, listen, have an awesome Monday. You guys have a great week. Thanks for jumping back on after the dog poop break and us handling business. But have a great week, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.
So follow the Corner Kid on YouTube. The address was just up there. Fight Cards Nate. You can watch this on the Facebook group or on YouTube. And then UFC Prism Junkie on Instagram and whatnot. And I'll be I got a case of undercard coming in this week. So I might stream on the page. I'm definitely streaming on whatnot. Come get it. All right, guys, have a good week. We'll be talking about undercard next weekend, I'm sure.
There we go. And hey, listen, maybe I can buy an undercard box from you and we can rip it on here.
That'd be great.
Okay.
The live rip action. All right.
All right.
Bye.